After the Fraxio, the priest says the Agnus Dei. The Agnus Dei is said in the loud voice, and the priest strikes his breast as he says each Miserere Nobis and the Dona Nobis Pacem. He begins by making a medium bow of the body, with hands joined, but not resting on the altar. He then says the prayer,
Agnus Dei qui tollis peccata mundi, miserere nobis. Agnus Dei qui tollis peccata mundi, miserere nobis. Agnus Dei qui tollis peccata mundi, dona nobis pacem.
At the words Miserere Nobis, he lays his left hand on the corporal and strikes his breast with the tips of the 3 extended fingers of his right hand. He repeats this gesture as he says the second Miserere Nobis and the Dona Nobis Pacem. After the Agnus Dei, the priest remains bowed and places his joined hands on the altar as he says the 3 prayers before communion in the quiet voice. He keeps his eyes fixed intently on the sacred host as he says all 3 prayers, the Domine Iesu Christi qui dixisti, the Domine Iesu Christi Filii Dei vivi, and the Perceptio Corporis Tui. Note that the priest does not bow his head as he mentions the holy name, since he is already bowed over the altar. When he finishes these prayers, the priest straightens, genuflects, and says in the quiet voice, Panem celestem accipiam et nomen Domini invocabo. He then takes both halves of the host with his right hand and places them upright in the left. He takes the paten with his right hand and places it on the 3 extended fingers of the left hand underneath the host. Holding the host upright over the paten and keeping the paten above the corporal, he then makes a medium bow of the body and says in the loud voice,
Domine non sum Deus.
as he strikes his breast with his right hand.
Domine non sum Deus. Domine non sum Deus.
Each time he says the first 4 words,
Domine non sum Deus.
in the loud voice as he strikes his breast, and then says the remainder of the prayer in the quiet voice. He then straightens and overlaps the 2 halves of the host and takes them in his right hand. He makes a vertical sign of the cross with the host over himself, careful not to go beyond the edges of the paten. As he makes the sign of the cross with the host, he says in the quiet voice, Corpus Domini Nostri Iesu Christi custodiet animam meam in vitam aeternam. Amen, making a low head bow as he says the holy name. He then bows profoundly over the corporal, resting his forearms on the edge of the altar. He holds the host over the paten, keeping the paten under his chin and above the corporal. He then reverently receives the entire host. He immediately stands erect and places the paten on the corporal. He may purify his fingers over the paten if necessary. He then joins his hands before his face and pauses in meditation until he has swallowed the host. As soon as he has swallowed the host, he immediately begins the prayer, Quid retribuam, in the quiet voice, as he uncovers the chalice and genuflects. He stops after the phrase, Que retribuit mihi, and takes the paten in his left hand. If there are particles visible on the paten, he should purify the paten into the chalice by holding it above the chalice with his left hand and drawing the particles down into the chalice with his right thumb and forefinger. He then transfers the paten to his right hand and scrapes the corporal where the host lay during Mass. He should be particularly diligent in scraping the creases and corners where particles are likely to gather. If necessary, he can lift the edge of the corporal with the left hand. He need not be overly scrupulous in scraping the corporal, but worry only about those particles which are clearly visible. He then transfers the paten to the left hand and purifies it over the chalice as before. He lays his left hand, still holding the paten, on the corporal, and finishes the prayer as he takes the chalice with the right hand, saying, Calicem salutaris accipiam et nomen Domini invocabo. He makes a vertical sign of the cross with the chalice over himself, as he says in the quiet voice, Sanguis Domini Nostri Iesu Christi custodiet animam meam in vitam aeternam. Amen, bowing his head at the holy name. Before the priest drinks the precious blood, he should make sure the cross on the base of the chalice is facing towards himself, so that he drinks from the edge of the lip which is immediately above the cross. He then holds the paten under his chin and drinks the entire contents of the chalice, preferably in one swallow. He then sets the chalice on the corporal.